Hello and welcome everyone to March's Lunch and Learn. I'll wait a few seconds for people to join us. And if anyone is online, if you just type in the comments which part of the world you're joining from today. It usually takes a while for me to see that people are online. And so whilst I'm waiting, if you are online, let me know that you're here and let me know which part of the world you're joining from. Right, so the topic today for this month's Lunch and Learn is about overcoming the fear of rejection to ask for what you want or need. And how many times have you held yourself back from asking for a promotion, a pay rise, or an opportunity because you were fearful of being told no? And I see this as a big barrier for people with their career progression. Hi, Sierra from Pennsylvania. Great to have you here. So yes, I see this as a great barrier for people asking for what it is that they want, what it is that they need, so that they can progress in their careers, they can get the promotions they want, they can get the salaries that they want. And so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Carol Stewart. I'm an executive career leadership coach, speaker, author, trainer, founder of The Bounding Solutions, and author of Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. And I coach leaders with a particular emphasis on introverted leaders to lead with confidence, influence, and impact. And so what I'm going to be covering today, I'm going to be talking about why we fear rejection and how it holds us back, how you can reframe rejection so that it no longer stops you asking for what you want. And I will share practical strategies that you can apply to ask for what you need and want with confidence. And so by the end of this session, you'll know what to do to develop the confidence to ask for what you want or need without being fearful and without holding yourselves back. And I see many leaders hesitate to ask for the promotions that they want or for the pay rises or even asking for help as they may need support in something. And that's because they fear rejection. They fear being told no. They fear being not approved. And I've worked with leaders who are very talented, who stayed stuck doing what they're doing, and they've outgrown their roles simply because they didn't feel confident enough to ask for more. And the common fears that I see are that fear of failure, fear of judgment, and self-doubt. And that is often behind why they fear that rejection. Because you see, we all have a need to belong and we all want to be accepted. And when we feel that we don't belong or we're not accepted, it can make us feel that we're being rejected. And so what needs to happen is we need to recognize that if you don't ask, you don't get. As simple as that. If you don't ask, you don't get. That was the saying that my dad used to have. If you don't ask, you don't get. And so it's about how you can manage those fears, because what's happening is when you're in a situation that you want something really badly, but you're fearing that being told no, you're fearing no, it's triggering your body's stress response. And so what's happening is you're feeling threatened by this particular event, asking for what it is that you want. And as a result of that, it's triggering the response in your brain that you would respond to a stressful situation. And then what happens is it triggers the fight, flight, or freeze response. So you either run away from the situation, you freeze, or you fight. And when it comes to feeling rejection in this context, you probably run away from the threat, as in run away from asking for what it is that you want or that you need. But as a result of this, holding on to this fear, you're missing out on opportunities. You're missing out on the promotions, you're missing out on the pay rise, you're missing out on getting the help that you need. And so it requires you to have a shift in your mindset and in your thinking, and recognizing that if somebody tells you no, that's not a reflection of your worth. There are many reasons why you could be told no. It could be that they don't think that you are ready for the opportunity. It could be that they don't have the budget to give you the pay rise. It could be that somebody else has got more skills, more experience than you. Or it could be simply that they don't think that you are good enough. And that is okay. And it's about not letting that fear, that worry hold you back from going after what you want. And so I'll give you an example. A client of mine who wanted to apply for an executive role, and because she feared being told that she wasn't ready, she didn't think that she was good enough, she was holding herself back. And it turned out eventually that she actually got offered a role as a member of the C-suite, but she was going to initially turn it down because that fear of rejection that she had, now that they'd offered it her, that she was talking herself out of it, thinking, oh, that they've only offered it to her because no one else was up to the mark, and if she takes it, they're going to realize that she's not good enough. So it was triggering imposter syndrome. But I was able to coach her to recognize that she was good enough, she had the talent, she had the experience, and she deserved to apply for the role. So when you're fearing the rejection, you're fearing being told no, recognize that it's not personal. Don't take it personally. Look at it as that you're not the right fit, or that opportunity isn't available for you. And just because somebody says no, it doesn't mean that it's a no forever. It means that it's a no today. And look at what you can learn from the feedback if you get told no, and identify what it was that why you were a no, and look at what you can learn from the feedback. Because like I said, a no today doesn't mean a no forever. And use those no's as to help you refine your approach and prepare you for the right opportunity. And when it comes to thinking about how you can confidently ask for what you want, first of all, get clear on what you want as well. Before you get clear on what you want, make sure that your mindset, you are in that frame of mind to ask for what you want. And so before I go into detail about how you can confidently ask for what you want, I want to sort of touch a bit more on the developing the right frame of mind. Because if you're worrying about being told no, if you're thinking that, or you can't go for something because you're going to get told no, you're going to be rejected, you will never go for it. Or you may go for something, but because you're worrying, you're fearful, you're going to feel anxious about it. And if you feel anxious about it, then, and you do go for it, you're not going to perform it to the best of your ability. So when it comes to asking for what you want, you're not going to ask for it confidently because you'll be so anxious. you'll have heard me say, those of you who regularly watch my lives or attend my events or have had coaching with me, you will have heard me talk about how we're led by our emotions, many of us, unless you have that awareness, and unless you have developed that self-awareness about this, then you may be being led by your emotions, and the way that we think affects how we feel, and we act and behave according to how we're feeling. And that's usually as a result of what we think and believe about ourselves, our situations, something that we need to do, our environment. And so if you're fearing that you're going to get told no, you're going to get rejected, and you're not putting yourself forward, or you're putting yourself forward, but because you're feeling so anxious about it, you're not being confident about asking for what you want, then what can happen is that you don't give yourself the best opportunity to showcase that you are the person for the role, that you deserve that pay increase or whatever it is that you're going for. So challenge what you think and believe about yourself and what it is that you're wanting to do. Put things into perspective. Ask yourself, well, what is the worst that could happen? And if that was to happen, what could you do? So supposing you were told no, what could you do? Well, what is a better way of looking at it than, oh, they're going to say no because I'm not good enough, or they're going to say no and then I'm going to feel foolish. What's a more helpful way of looking at it? Because if you change what you think and believe about the situation, you'll change how you feel. Change how you feel, you change how you act and behave. So change what you think and what you believe about yourself and what it is that you're going to ask for, and that will help to change how you feel and how you act and behave. And so when it comes to asking confidently for what you want, get clear about what it is that you want. What are the outcomes that you want? What is it that you're asking for? And you want to be able to ask with confidence and resilience. And so when it comes to structuring your request effectively, define what it is that you want and why it is important. And so know in your mind why that is important, and prepare for the conversation. Visualize the outcome that you want, prepare for the conversation, think about what objections are going to come up, and anticipate any objections to what you're asking for, and then think about how you can address those objections before they've even been raised. So say, for example, you're asking for a pay rise and that you're anticipating an objection that, well, we don't have the budget for this. Then something that you could think about is, well, how can you show that by giving you that pay rise, that the value that you're going to add is worthwhile? That's probably not a good example, but hopefully you'll get what I mean by that. So prepare for objections so that you can address those objections. And when you're preparing for the conversation, gather as much evidence as you can that supports your reason for asking for what you want. So if you know that you're going for you want to sort of implement a particular project, let's say, for example, you've got this idea for this particular project because you believe it's going to improve performance. Provide as much evidence as you can to show why you believe that this project is going to be the answer that your organization is looking for, or your team or your department needs in order to improve performance, to reduce costs, or whatever it is. So if it's about asking for a pay rise, I'll give you an example of a client who had been at the same sort of pay level for quite a long time, and she was fearful of asking for a pay rise because She didn't want to be told no, to be told that she didn't deserve it. And so with coaching, she was able to recognize all the value that she had added, the results that she made. And so she prepared herself for the conversation by gathering the evidence about where she'd exceeded objectives, where she'd made a big difference, where she'd made an impact. And so she was able to go into that conversation armed with evidence as to why she deserved the pay rise. And she recognized that she had been holding herself back for no reason. So it's about getting clear about what you want and why it's important, having the evidence to back up what you're saying, and preparing for the conversation, thinking about what are the objections, and anticipating what may come up as an objection, and having an answer for the objection so that you address the objection before it's even raised. Because if you address the objection before it's even raised, then there's no need for them to raise it, because you've already provided a solution to that objection. So, any questions, any thoughts so far? And if you're wanting to know more about how you can negotiate when it comes to whether it's a pay rise, whether it's your compensation package, I did a LinkedIn Live last year about negotiation. So if you look on my profile at the events and scroll down, you will find one which is focused specifically on negotiation. So any questions so far? If there are, please put in the comments and I will gladly answer them. Let's have a look. Nope, no comments. Okay, so that about wraps up what I wanted to share today. And so just to go over what I've covered, I've talked about why we fear rejection and how it can hold us back. I've talked about shifting your mindset so that you handle rejections constructively. Remember, it's don't take it personally, and look at what you can learn if you are told no. And if you are told no, that's okay. You learn from the feedback, learn from the experience, and how you can handle things differently next time. And I've shared some practical strategies that you can use to confidently ask for what it is that you want. So hopefully now you're a bit more clear about how you can develop the confidence to ask for what you need or want without holding yourself back. Now, if anybody's got any questions, then do let me know. If you watch this on the replay, then I will come back and check for any questions and I will answer any questions. And so if you want more inspiration, then follow me here on LinkedIn, because I'm always sharing inspiration, articles, videos, etc. So do follow me here on LinkedIn if you're not already following me. Right, I've got a question here. Let's have a look. This is great. What advice for people who never ask for help because they were told you should know since you're at this level? Right, so that is, I guess it depends on what the situation is and how long you have been in the post. So if you're getting told that because you're at a particular level, if you're someone who is new in post, and if it is something that is to do with a technical aspect of the role, or whether it is, yes, I guess it all depends on what it is that you're asking advice for. Now, what I would suggest is finding somebody who is an ally, someone who you know that you trust, that you can go and speak to, and asking them for advice. And I would think that somebody who is saying to someone who's asking for advice that you should know since you're at that level, it all depends on how long, like I said, you've been in the particular role. If you're fairly new in the role, then that isn't a very helpful thing to do. If there's nobody that's willing to give you the advice that you need, then try and problem solve for yourself. It's a bit difficult to answer that without having a bit more detail, and I appreciate that this is an open forum, so you might not want to put personal details. And so if it's the case, then send me a DM. I'd be happy to have a private conversation with you about this. But my initial thoughts would be that it depends on how sort of far into the role you are. If it's a fairly new role, then maybe look, if that particular person that you're going to for advice isn't being helpful, who else in the organization can give you advice. Maybe do a bit of brainstorming by yourself, look at it, what it is that you're needing advice on, and getting clear about where it is that you're feeling a bit stuck, because sometimes once you break things down, it can be more easier to understand exactly what is needed. I know that's probably not too helpful, but like I said, if you want to send me a DM, I'd be happy to have a private conversation with you, because I'd probably need a bit more context to answer that question. That was a good start. Thank you. I'm glad you found that helpful. Any more questions? And yes, so I was saying, do follow me on LinkedIn. And if you've not taken my confidence, influence, and impact assessment, then go to aboundingsolutions.com under free resources. There's a free assessment that you can take that will give you ideas about areas that you can focus on if you're wanting to increase your confidence, influence, and impact. And if you're not subscribed to my monthly LinkedIn newsletter, Quietly Visible, then do so. If you go to my profile, you will find it on there. So thank you for those of you that have come online. Those of you that are watching the replay, I will come back and see if anybody's got any questions or any comments. And before I sign off, if anybody has any more questions, then please ask before I go. Right, there's no more questions, so I will say thank you and goodbye. I'll see you next time.